A broken father, an empty bus stop, 12 crumpled dollars in his hand. What Ethan discovered on that freezing night in November wasn't just a stranger begging for help in the dark. It was a calculated plan meant to leave someone vulnerable in the right place and use the wrong person as the next piece. A plan that would have worked if he hadn't made the mistake of giving away exactly everything he had. This is the story of how $12 changed 2 lives and put a child in the middle of a war no one wanted to see. Ethan's hand shook as he pulled out the crumpled bills. $12, his last $12. The woman in front of him was bent over the bench, fingers shaking as she tried to count change that clearly wasn't enough. Her dark coat was torn at the shoulder. One heel was snapped. Mascara streaks cut down her cheeks like ink. "I just need to get home," she whispered, breath hitching. "Please." They took my purse. My phone. Everything. A cold wind sliced down Woodward Avenue, rattling the loose metal sign above the bus stop. The city lights glowed far away. Here, the street felt empty and mean. Ethan looked at the money in his palm. It was supposed to be dinner, maybe breakfast, maybe bus fare tomorrow if he still had a job to go back to. He thought of his empty fridge, his stomach twisting. Lily asleep 2 miles away, probably dreaming of a world where her dad wasn't always counting coins. In his head, he heard her small voice, "Would you help her, Daddy?" He swallowed hard. "How much are you short?" he asked. 12. She held up 5 wrinkled ones and a fist of coins. "I just need 12 more. It's the last express bus to Bloomfield Hills." He knew that route, knew the price, knew he was giving up his way home. He stared at the bills for one long second. Then he pushed all $12 into her shaking hand. "Here, take it." "I can't," she said, voice breaking. "That's too much." "It's fine. Just get somewhere safe." For the first time, she really looked at him. At his soaked sneakers, his cheap jacket, the cardboard box by his feet. She understood he didn't have it to spare. "Why are you doing this?" He shrugged, throat tight. "You look like somebody's mom." The bus hissed to a stop, doors opening with a rush of warm air. She climbed on, still staring at him like she was trying to memorize his face. At the last second, she turned back. "What's your name?" "Ethan." "Ethan. Thank you." The door shut. The bus pulled away, taillights shrinking into the dark. The wind hit harder now. Ethan picked up his box and started walking into the November cold, having no idea that this was the night somebody was about to try and break him for good, and that what he'd just done would be the reason he survived. 9 hours earlier, the office lights buzzed as Ethan sat in the supervisor's cheap chair. Across the desk, Derek Mason flipped through a thin file. "We've got a problem, Parker. Equipment's been disappearing. Security did an internal review. The trail points to your shifts." Ethan felt his stomach drop. "That's not right." "You know, we have statements," Derek cut in. "People saw you near the locked cages." A woman from accounting, Sarah, stood in the corner with her arms crossed, avoiding his eyes. "Sarah says she saw you signing out scanners that never came back," Derek added. Ethan turned to her. "Sarah, come on." She said nothing. "Security will escort you off the premises," Derek said. "Effective immediately." 2 guards appeared at the door. They walked him past the loading dock while guys he used to joke with pretended not to see him. His locker was cleaned out in minutes. A photo of Lily, a chipped coffee mug, a pair of worn gloves went into a cardboard box that felt heavier than it should. No severance. No notice. Just a security badge that stopped working as soon as they hit the front door. Now, hours later, he sat at a bus stop with that same box at his feet and $12 to his name. His phone buzzed. "Mrs. Chun from 3B. Lily's asleep. Don't worry, she ate. Come home safe." He was wondering how you explained "Daddy doesn't have a job anymore" to a 7-year-old when he heard the choked crying down the sidewalk. The bus stop sat under a flickering streetlight that kept buzzing and going dark. Detroit's skyline glowed in the distance. Here, the street was cracked, the air colder, and the smell of stale beer leaked from the bar on the corner. The woman was hunched near the bench, back to the street, digging through a ripped designer purse. Her breathing was fast and shallow. Every few seconds she'd flinch and glance over her shoulder. A torn business badge hung from her coat, the plastic cracked. He couldn't read the logo in this light. She spilled her wallet empty and a handful of coins across the metal bench. No, she whispered. Her voice broke on the last word. Ethan hovered for a second. He'd learned that sometimes people just wanted to fall apart in peace. But then he saw her hands. They were shaking so badly she kept dropping coins. And her left wrist was red, like someone had grabbed it too hard. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked, stepping closer. She jerked like she'd been shocked, looked up at him with eyes that were bloodshot and wide and scared. Up this close he could see her makeup was expensive. Her coat was good fabric, ruined by that tear. "Someone took my bag," she said. "My phone. My cards, my keys. I just turned for a second and it was gone." Her gaze darted to the street, toward a dark sedan idling too long at the corner. Ethan followed her eyes. The car rolled away slow when he stared back. "You see them?" Ethan asked. "Hoodie. Black. Baseball cap." She swallowed. "He knew where I'd be. He knew what door I'd come out of." Ethan scanned the street. "Nothing obvious now. Where are you headed?" "Bloomfield Hills," she said. "It's the last express. I had enough for the fare, and then—" She held up her cash, 5 ones, some coins. "I'm short. I just need $12 more. Just 12. 12. Ethan felt the bills in his pocket like they were burning a hole through his. Jeans, dinner, cereal, maybe bus fare to go fight with HR tomorrow. Maybe not. He thought of Lily's empty cereal box that morning. He looked at the woman again. At the scuffed heel, the shaking hands, the way she kept glancing toward the alley like she was expecting that guy to come back. And for a second, a very small, ugly second, he thought, not my problem. Walk away. You got your own kid to worry about. The thought made his chest hurt. He took the crumpled 12 from his pocket. Damn it, he muttered to himself. Then he stepped forward and pushed the money into her palm. Here. Finish the fare. She stared at his hand, at him, back at his box on the ground. You don't look like you can spare it, she said softly. I can't, he answered. But you're still getting home tonight. Her eyes filled. What's your name? Ethan. Ethan, she took a breath like the air hurt. I don't know how to pay you back. Just get on that bus before that guy comes back, he said, nodding toward the alley. Headlights washed over them as the express pulled up, brakes screeching. Warm air and diesel fumes spilled out when the doors opened. She climbed on, then turned back at the top step. For a split second, the light hit her badge just right and he read a name he didn't recognize and a logo he'd seen on billboards downtown. Hawley and Sterling. Then the doors hissed shut and the bus pulled away. The cold hit him immediately, deeper now. He picked up his box, shifted its weight, and started the 4-mile walk home with wet socks, an empty wallet, and a strange feeling he couldn't shake. By mile 2, his toes were on fire. The wind off the river cut through his thin jacket. The cardboard box dug into his forearms. Somewhere between a pawn shop and a laundromat with half its letters burned out, the sky opened up. Thin, icy rain at first, then real rain. He cursed under his breath as the bottom of the box finally gave way, spilling his mug, gloves, and Lily's framed photo into a puddle. The photo lay face down in dirty water. He snatched it up, wiping it on his shirt, heart pounding. He kept walking. By the time he reached his apartment building, his hands were numb and his vision blurred at the edges. The stairwell smelled like old cooking oil and burnt toast. Inside, Mrs. Chun was asleep on his couch. She jerked awake when he shut the door too hard. "You're home," she said. "Lily's sleeping," she worried. "Thank you, Mrs. Chun." He nodded, throat tight, and watched her shuffle next door. Lily's bedroom door was cracked. He peeked in. She was curled around her stuffed rabbit, hair a tangle on the pillow. On the knit stand, a drawing in crayon, 3 stick figures holding hands. Daddy, me, Mom. He went to the tiny kitchen and opened the fridge. Half a carton of milk, 4 eggs, a jar of grape jelly, a bottle of ketchup. He cracked 2 eggs into a pan, hands still shaking from cold and exhaustion. That night, sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by unpaid bills, he replayed the bus stop over and over. The woman shaking hands. The logo on the badge. The way the car at the corner had rolled away too slow. He thought about the $12. About whether he'd just made the stupidest decision of his life. At 6:47 a.m., just as he finally felt his eyes closing, someone pounded on his front door hard enough to rattle the frame. The second knock wasn't polite. It was fists on wood, controlled but heavy. 4 dark vehicles dominate the curb like they own it. 2 black SUVs and 2 black sedans. Windows tinted, engines idling, exhaust turning white in the cold. 2 men in tailored suits look like commuters until you notice the clear earpieces and the way their eyes constantly sweep the entryway quiet, controlled, ready. Ethan's heart lurched. For one stupid, panicked second, he thought, Morrison, cops. Someone found out I'm here. He stumbled to the peephole, blinking sleep and fear out of his eyes. The line of black vehicles idled at the curb below, exhaust turning white in the cold morning air. The lead driver stayed inside, eyes on the rear view. 2 security guys stood on the sidewalk, phones to their ears, pretending to talk while watching the building. At his door stood the woman from the bus stop. Except now she didn't look lost. Her hair was pulled back into a sleek style, not a strand out of place. The smeared makeup was gone, replaced with precise eyeliner. The torn coat had been swapped for a tailored charcoal blazer and matching trousers. Diamond studs flashed when she moved her head. The only trace of last night was a faint bruise on her wrist and a tired edge around her eyes. Ethan opened the door slowly, conscious of the state of his t-shirt, the smell of cheap coffee still in the air. Her gaze flicked past him into the apartment, the peeling paint, the stack of bills, Lily's drawings on the fridge, and came back to his face. She didn't look surprised. "Ethan Parker?" she asked. His mouth went dry. "Yeah. My name is Victoria Hawley." She spoke the words like a fact, not a brag. "I'm the founder and CEO of Hawley and Sterling." For a second he thought he'd misheard. The name from the badge. The one from the billboards, CEO. The room seemed smaller suddenly. "We need to talk," she said. "Right now?" Behind her, one of the security guys shifted his weight, still watching the stairwell. "Is everything okay?" Ethan asked, instinctively glancing at Lily's door down the hall. "That's what I'm trying to figure out," she answered. She stepped inside without waiting for him to invite her, moving carefully around the boxes. The security guy stayed at the door, eyes forward. Whatever this was, it wasn't a thank you visit. Victoria sat on his worn couch, back straight, eyes taking everything in. The bruise on her wrist was darker this morning. Her head of security stood by the door. Through the window, Ethan could see the lead sedan still running. "What happened after the bus?" she asked. "Walked home," he said. "Got rained on. Went hungry." Her gaze slid to the cardboard box in the corner with Lily's photo on top. "I know about Morrison Logistics," she said. He stiffened. "How?" "We found you through bus stop, CCTV, and your building's lobby camera. Morrison's HR isn't subtle." She pulled out a slim folder. 3 years, no complaints. "Then suddenly you're stealing equipment." She put it on the table. "Your supervisor Derek Mason and an accountant named Sarah Kemp were siphoning equipment. They needed a scapegoat. You fit." Rage flared hot in his gut. "So they ruined my name to cover their mess," he said. "That's what cowards do," she replied. "They pick someone who can't fight back." He swallowed hard. "Why do you care?" "Last night you were broke and still helped me," she said quietly. "The night someone inside my company tried to break me." She leaned forward. "Last night wasn't random. Someone on my staff knew when I'd leave, what door I'd use. They disabled my alarm, took my purse, made sure I ended up alone in the worst part of town. It was a message." He thought of the dark sedan rolling away slow. "And there you were," she continued. "Wet, exhausted, broke. And when I asked for $12, you gave me everything you had." She paused. "2 weeks ago, my audit team flagged a vendor discrepancy. The pattern matched your case at Morrison. When I realized who you were at that bus stop, I watched." His skin went cold. "So I was a test?" Her eyes flashed. "I was bleeding in the street, Ethan, but once I knew who you were, I made a decision. Take a risk on the only person in this city who's been screwed by the exact scheme I'm dealing with." She slid a document across the table. "Someone in Hawley and Sterling is doing what Derek did. Fake vendors, phantom invoices. I need someone who sees how this works. Someone outside my circle. Someone nobody would suspect I'd trust." He stared at the paper. "An employment contract. Junior analyst, $58,000 a year. Your job, dig through vendor payments and help my team build a case." He shook his head. "I'm not an analyst. I move pallets." "You survived 3 years without losing a single shipment," she countered. "Your logs are cleaner than our accountant's work. You see patterns. Don't undersell yourself." He swallowed. "Why me?" "Because my people might be compromised. Because my board thinks I'm too emotional. Because I need someone who knows what it's like to be framed. And because when you had nothing, you still chose to be decent." Her tone sharpened. "But I won't sugarcoat it. If you say yes, you're stepping into something dangerous. Whoever's behind this has money, access, and no problem setting people up. If they realize you're looking, they'll come for you." He glanced at Lily's door down the hall. "I could lose more than a job," he said quietly. "Yeah," she replied. "You could." A small sound came from the hallway. Lily stood there in unicorn pajamas, hair sticking out everywhere. "Daddy?" Her voice was small. "Did we do something bad?" His heart twisted. "No, baby. Come here." She shuffled over. Victoria's mask cracked just enough to show something raw. "Hi, Lily. I'm Victoria. I'm asking your dad if he wants to help me catch some very bad people who took things that don't belong to them." Lily's brow furrowed. "Like the people who took his job?" Ethan closed his eyes. When he opened them, Victoria was looking at him with the same anger he felt. He exhaled. "Okay," he said. "I'll do it." Her shoulders dropped. "We leave in an hour. Get her to school. My driver will take you both." She stood. "Last night you gave me $12 you couldn't afford to lose. Today I'm giving you one shot you can't afford to waste. Don't make me regret either." He met her eyes. "I won't." The Hawley and Sterling Tower looked different from the sidewalk Ethan usually stared at. Up close, the glass caught every scrap of winter light. Inside, everything gleamed. Marble floors, chrome railings, the soft hiss of elevators, the faint smell of expensive coffee. Lily squeezed his hand tight as they stepped into the lobby. Her eyes went wide at the huge digital screen showing campaigns and logos. "Is this a castle?" she whispered. "Something like that," he murmured. Victoria waited near the security desk, not in full CEO armor today, but still sharp navy suit. Clean lines, focus in her eyes. She knelt to Lily's level, not Ethan's. "Ready for school, number 7?" she asked. Lily grinned. "I'm not 7, I'm 7.5. "My mistake," Victoria said, like this was the most important correction of the day. Her driver took Lily to school. Ethan watched the car go longer than he needed to. Inside, a badge was printed with his name, Contract Analyst. The word felt borrowed. Grace, Victoria's assistant, showed him around. Open-plan floors. Glass-walled meeting rooms. People in crisp clothes who walked like their emails were more important than gravity. His new workspace. A small office with a view of the river and a stack of files that looked taller than Lily. These are vendors from the last 18 months, Grace said. Victoria wants you to start with anyone under $5,000 per invoice. That threshold's where people like to hide ghosts. Finance keeps immutable backups, she added. Even deleted approvals leave footprints. He ran his fingers along the edges of the files. His body still remembered the weight of boxes and pallets. Numbers on a screen felt less real. But patterns, that he knew. As Grace left, she paused at the door. For what it's worth, she said, she doesn't do this. Bring strangers in. Especially not after last night. I'm not sure I should feel special or terrified, he said. Both is probably correct, Grace answered. When she was gone, he took a breath and opened the first file. Somewhere above him, the person who tried to break Victoria was still sipping coffee, answering emails, acting normal. And somewhere out there, Derek Mason still slept fine at night. If Ethan did his job right, neither would sleep like that for long. Hours blurred. On the screen, endless rows of vendors, dates, amounts. In his hands, contracts, invoices, correspondence. He scribbled notes in a cheap notebook because it grounded him more than the keyboard. Summit Solutions LLC came up first. Small invoices, always just under the extra approval line. Strategic Consulting. No attached deliverables. No meeting notes. No emails from project leads. He flagged it. Then came Northview Partners. Same pattern. Then Bluepoint Advisory. Same again. By late afternoon, he had a list of 5 consultants that seemed to do a lot of billing and 0 actual work. He traced registration records. All formed within a couple of months. Different names on the paperwork, but the same virtual office company handling their mail. One name appeared again and again in recommendation emails. Mason Reed. He clicked open a photo from a traffic camera near the bus stop. The dark sedan from last night. Partial plate. He cross-referenced the plate with parking records from the Halle and Sterling garage. The sedan belonged to a company carpool. Assigned to one M. Reed. He sat back, heart thumping. He was about to dig into Reed's HR file when someone knocked on his doorframe. The man in the doorway was mid-30s, good suit, expensive watch, easy smile. The kind of face you'd trust if you weren't paying attention. You must be the new guy, he said. Ethan, right? Ethan stood. Yeah, Mason Reed, he said, extending a hand. I used to be Victoria's executive assistant. Now, I'm a special consultant, which I think means we still need you but don't know what to call it. They shook hands. Mason's grip was firm, his eyes too bright. Heard you're looking into vendor payments, Mason said casually. That can get messy. Not the most fun way to spend a day. I've had worse jobs, Ethan said. Mason laughed. I bet. Inventory, right? Morrison Logistics? The word hit like a slap. You know about that? Ethan asked carefully. This town's smaller than it looks, Mason replied. And the circles up here? Even smaller. People talk. He leaned against the doorframe like they were buddies. Tough break, man. Getting tagged as the thief in a place that pays you barely enough to breathe. Ethan's jaw worked. He said nothing. Mason's smile sharpened just a bit. Just a piece of advice, Parker. People who get burned like that either learn to play smarter or get burned worse next time. He pushed off the frame. Good talk. See you around. When he was gone, Ethan stared at the door. So the ex-executive assistant already knew who he was. Already knew what he was doing. That didn't feel like coincidence. 2 days later, Ethan grabbed a printout someone had forgotten on the 12th floor communal printer. Subject: Concerns regarding temp analyst access. It was between a board member and the head of HR. Wise to give a recently accused warehouse worker access to financial systems. If anything leaks, we'll need a scapegoat ready. Scapegoat. The word made his hands go cold. He was still staring at the page when his office door closed quietly behind him. "Mason? Busy?" he asked. Ethan folded the printout quickly. "Depends who's asking." Mason smiled like they were sharing a joke. "Look, man, I didn't mean to spook you the other day. I actually came to help." He sat without being invited. "You're digging in the right places," he said. "Those consultants? Sketchy. But here's the thing. You're not the first person to notice. You're just the one without a parachute." Ethan said nothing. "Board's already nervous," Mason went on. "They think Victoria's too invested, too emotional. If you push this wrong, it won't be her they push out. It'll be you." He leaned forward, voice dropping. "You've got a kid, right?" He glanced at the photo on the desk. "Cute. Where's her mom?" "Gone," Ethan said flatly. "Sorry to hear that," Mason said, no real sorrow in his tone. "So you're it, just you between her and the system." He let that sit. "You know how fast CPS moves on anonymous tips?" he asked softly. Lily's face flashed in Ethan's mind. Her gap-toothed smile, her unicorn pajamas. "Are you threatening my daughter?" Ethan asked, voice low. "I'm telling you how this game is played," Mason answered. "You start digging into numbers that make certain people uncomfortable, they're going to dig into you. Hard." He slid a folded piece of paper across the desk. "Here's another way. You keep your job. Your kid keeps her dad. Everybody wins." Ethan didn't touch it. "What is it?" "A list of vendors you didn't find anything wrong with. A report that says, 'We looked. It's all clean.' You sign it. You get paid a little bonus. Things go back to normal." "And the money still disappears," Ethan said. "But your world doesn't break," Mason replied. Ethan's hands clenched on the armrest. "If I lie, I'm them," he said. "The people who ruined my name because it was easy." Mason's eyes chilled. "If you don't, you're a guy with no savings, a dependent kid, and a history someone could use against you. You really want to test which one a judge believes?" He stood, straightening his cuff. "Think about it, Parker. There's honest. And there's stupid." When the door closed, Ethan realized he'd been holding his breath. He opened the paper and saw a pre-written summary report. All the ghost vendors listed as no irregularities found. There was a line at the bottom waiting for his signature. His heart hammered. He closed his eyes and saw Lily's drawing on the fridge. 3 stick figures holding hands. He lasted one more day pretending to think about it. By the next night, the decision was eating him alive. He went back to the office after hours. Security knew his face by now. He muttered something about a deadline and they let him through. The building felt different at night, quieter. The hum of the HVAC louder, the click of his own footsteps sharper. Mason's old office, now mostly unused, sat dark on the 13th floor. Ethan's keycard beeped red on Mason's office door. Denied. He glanced down the hallway, empty. The door to the records room next door was ajar, fluorescent light humming inside. He pushed it open. Inside, a rolling bin overflowed with confidential folders marked for shredding. The top one read, Vendor Communication, Mareed. His stomach dropped. He snapped quick photos of the cover, opened the folder, and caught the Summit Solutions logo on the first page. He didn't stay to admire it. He shoved the folder back into the bin and headed straight for the elevator before anyone appeared. Back in his own office, door locked, he spread the folder out carefully. Printed emails ran in neat lines. Mason writing from his company address to dummy accounts, payments timed perfectly with project approvals. One email froze his blood, from Derek.mason@morrisonlogistics.com 2. m.reed@hollysterling.com. Subject: Test case. Using that guy in inventory worked. Nobody blinked. They had shared notes. Derek and Mason. He almost threw up. A shadow moved across the glass wall. He shoved the folder into his desk drawer and killed the light. "I know you're in here, Ethan," Mason's voice, annoyed rather than angry. "You've been in the shred room. Security logged your badge. You're not as invisible as you think." He still had admin access, special consultant perks that never got revoked. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. He stood slowly, hands steady even though his chest was tight. Mason stared at him for a long second. Well, Mason said softly. "Looks like the warehouse guy got curious." "I know about Derek," Ethan said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. "I know you used me as a test run. I know those vendors are fake." Mason shut the door with a quiet click. "And now you've stolen confidential files marked for destruction," he said calmly. "You realize what that makes you, right? Someone who finally stopped letting guys like you write the story," Ethan shot back. Mason smiled, slow and nasty. "Or, on paper, it makes you exactly what Morrison said you were. A desperate thief with a sob story." He stepped closer. "Here's the fun part, Parker. Tomorrow, when Victoria sees those files, I tell her you blackmailed me for access. I tell her you threatened my family. I show her the report you almost signed and say you were trying to cover your own scam." He shrugged. "Who do you think the board believes? The guy who's been in the room for 6 years? Or the fired warehouse worker who broke into the shred room in the middle of the night?" For a moment, Ethan saw it. The headlines, the whispers, Lily's teacher reading something online and wondering if her student was safe at home. His vision blurred. "You're right," Ethan said quietly. Mason looked surprised. "About one thing," Ethan continued. "On paper, I look terrible." He stepped closer himself. "But here's the problem for you. I'm not the only one who's seen this." He held up his phone. The little red dot in the corner blinked. "I didn't come in here alone," he lied. "I've already sent photos of that folder to someone who doesn't work for Holly and Sterling. Somebody who hates what you and Derek did to people like me." For the first time, Mason's mask slipped. "If something happens to me," Ethan said, "if anything touches my kid, those emails go straight to the police and every reporter in this city who likes stories about rich guys stealing." They stared at each other in the dim office. Two men who both knew they were bluffing about different things. Mason stepped back. "You think you're some kind of hero," he said. "You're just a guy who doesn't understand that most people don't want the truth. They want quiet." He opened the door. "See you at the meeting, Parker," he said. "Try not to choke when they ask how you got those papers." When he was gone, Ethan finally let himself sink into his chair. His hands were shaking now. The folder sat in his drawer like a live explosive. If he hid it, he was complicit. If he showed it, he was exposed. There wasn't a version of this where he got out clean. He decided to stop looking for one. Victoria's office was all glass and the smell of strong coffee. Ethan put the vendor communication read folder on her desk. He told her, the printout from the printer, the shred bin, the emails, Mason's late-night threat. She flipped the folder open, stopped at the Morrison email. "Using that guy in inventory worked. Nobody blinked," she read aloud. Her eyes lifted. "This is how you lost your job." "Yeah," he said. She closed the folder slowly. "You realize I could fire you and walk this to legal. Temp analyst rifles through shred bin." "Yeah." "Do you want me to say I'm sorry?" She studied him. "Are you?" He thought of Mason's threats, Lily's drawing. Every night wondering if he'd imagined Morrison's pattern. "I'm sorry it had to be like this." "I'm not sorry I know the truth." Her gaze shifted. "My lawyers said you're a liability. Now you've given them proof." She tapped the folder. "But you also gave me what I didn't have. Evidence tying this to Morrison. Proof I'm not too emotional. I'm right. She stood. Emergency board meeting in 2 hours. You're in that room. Mason will be there. He's going to try to rip you apart. You still want in? He thought of Mason's smirk. The printout calling him a scapegoat. I'm already in. She nodded once. Go home. Change. Eat. Be back in 90 minutes. And Ethan? Yeah? Don't embellish. Just tell them what you saw and what's on those pages. If we go down telling the truth. He'd never heard anyone with her kind of power say we about him before. The boardroom was cold. Long glass table. Expensive suits. Coffee cups like soldiers. Victoria sat at the head. Ethan halfway down. Mason at the far end, tie loose. Expression bored. Victoria opened with numbers. Losses, patterns, vendor names. Then she nodded at Ethan. Mr. Parker, walk them through what you found. He stood, folder in hand. He showed invoice timing. Amounts hugging thresholds. Overlapping registration dates. Virtual office addresses. Murmurs rippled. He set the folder on the table and opened it. These are Mason's own documents, pulled from a shredding bin next to his old office. He held up the first page. His emails approving ghost vendors. His signatures on fake contracts. He flipped to the last sheet. And this one, from Derek Mason at Morrison Logistics, confirming they used the same scheme to frame me before their audit. He put the page where everyone could see. From Derek.Mason at MorrisonLogistics.com to M.Reed at HollySterling.com subject. Test case. Using that guy in inventory worked. Nobody blinked. Silence. Then Mason laughed. This is cute. You dug up half a story and filled the rest with drama. He turned to the board. Miss Holly is scared. She brought in a man with every reason to hate his former employer. He admits he went digging in files. Could have planted anything. He looked at Ethan. Tell them how you got those documents, Parker. I went into the records room after hours. I saw a bin marked for shredding. Top folder had your name. Vendor Communication, M. Reed. I opened it and found these emails. He swallowed. I broke protocol, but I didn't forge anything. These are your words. Derek's words. Not mine. Mason pounced. See? He admits it. Trespassed to confidential files. At Morrison, they fired him for theft. Now he's doing it again? A board member cleared his throat. Miss Hawley, did you bring in a man fired for theft to investigate millions? Victoria stood. Mr. Parker was accused, never charged. Because when anyone looked at the pattern, it didn't add up. She clicked the remote. New slides, Morrison documents. Audit reports. Derek and Sarah's names everywhere. Derek Mason and Sarah Kemp are under investigation at Morrison. Same scheme bleeding our accounts. She turned to Mason. Mr. Reed shared emails with Derek discussing that test case. She tapped the folder. Hard copies. They match the backup our finance system keeps of deleted messages. Board members shifted. Mason's jaw clenched. You can't cherry-pick my emails. Context matters. No one accidentally creates ghost companies. Victoria cut in. You approved payments with no deliverables, no work product, no concrete outcomes. She faced the board. If you want to punish someone for catching this, punish me. I brought him in. I asked him to go where my people wouldn't. I stand behind that. She turned back. Our team traced the funds. They passed through those consultants into shell corporations connected to you. He opened his mouth. She cut him off. Police were notified yesterday. They've already opened a case. She glanced at security. Detectives will be here in 20 minutes. Until then, Mason waits in the lobby with security. The mood tilted. He half rose. You can't do this. I've been with this company since it fit in one floor. That's what I'm afraid of, Victoria said. 2 officers stepped in. Mr. Reed, let's go." Mason hesitated. As he passed Ethan, he leaned in. "Guys like me don't forget, Parker." Ethan held his gaze. He didn't say what he was thinking. I know, because he did. The weeks after the board meeting were a different kind of storm. Morrison sent a careful letter saying Ethan's departure had been handled inconsistently with company policy. No apology. But enough that on paper, he wasn't a thief anymore. His pay at Hawley and Sterling became permanent. Bills got caught up. Lily got a backpack that didn't split at the zipper. Other things stayed messy. A gossip site ran a piece. CEO hires disgraced warehouse worker to investigate her own company. Some people called him a hero. Others called him a con man. At school, one kid told Lily, "My mom says your dad was fired for stealing." Lily came home quiet that day. "Did you?" she asked at the table. He thought of the shred bin, Mason's emails, Derek's betrayal. "They made it look like I did," he said slowly. "But I fought to prove I didn't. That's the difference between being accused and being guilty." She thought about it, then just said, "Okay, just don't leave me, okay?" His chest hurt. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. And for the first time in months, he believed it. Sometimes the worst night of your life doesn't flip into a miracle in 24 hours. Sometimes it just cracks the ground enough for something different to grow. $12 didn't buy Ethan a fairy tale. They bought him a chance to prove who he was when nobody was watching. On the night the world called him a thief, he chose to act like anything but. So here's the question. If you had $12 left, no guarantee of anything in return, and a stranger shaking in the cold, would you give it away? Think about that.